$4.1 billion in 1 year of taxpayer money going to corporate welfare. That, and of course, Whitmer having the pro-Palestinian protesters on her property, and yet you can't find anything on Google, which I'm going to show you. And then I'm going to talk about robotics, which I wanted to talk about last week. I am sorry that I'm late. I was having technical difficulties with sound. Hopefully it's all fixed on my end. Please let me know if you guys have any sound issues whatsoever. I'm going to show some videos of the protests that happened at Whitmer's house, right outside of Whitmer's house. And allegedly, those are the people that voted for her, right? Allegedly. And then, again, robotics. There are concerning updates that we need to get into. And then some information on the FCC taking over the internet. So I'm going to get into all of it. Again, sorry I'm late. Good morning, Dragonfly. I hope you guys all had a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend. Personally, I bought a geopolitical video game, a simulator, where I get to run a country for $5 because of all the deals going on. And I basically played that all weekend. I didn't leave the house. But my whole point with that is that one of the main choices in running a country is whether you're going to have a planned economy or a free market economy. And if you do a planned economy, it's a lot more difficult to get out of a recession. And that is, of course, because the laws of supply and demand are better if it's not manipulated, if it's free market, where the people get to pick winners and losers rather than, our governor. So I am going to present this really quick because it's very concerning to me that you type in Whitmer and you go down the list and there's nothing about the pro-Palestinians protest. I'm going to stop stumbling over that one of these times, but there's nothing about it in the news. If you just type Whitmer and you go all the way to page 5, it used to be, by the way, look at that, only 10 pages. It used to be, it would go on and on and on. Do you guys remember that? That's how small our internet world has gotten. It's definitely not the wild, wild west any longer. Now, you can definitely go outside of Google and find different results. DuckDuckGo, I guess, is one of them. But I have stopped going to DuckDuckGo because although they do show different search results, they're still manipulated as well. But I think I should start doing that again because it's good to see what the difference between Google and DuckDuckGo and maybe Bing, even though that's controlled too. So you don't really have many options. Just like everything else, you have, 3 to 6 options for almost any industry, unfortunately. And that is all because of government control. So the other thing I wanted to show, Whitmer Pro Palestine, nothing. 1 month ago, everything is from a month ago, 4 weeks ago, which is a month. I don't know why I didn't say just a month, 3 weeks. And this only has 5 pages. And the 5th page doesn't even have anything. So the 4th page doesn't even have anything. This is how controlled our search results and basically our information, right? And intel is how we look at the world, formulate judgments and plans, and yada, yada, yada. It's unreal how controlled everything is in information-wise, and several other ways too. So the first thing I'm going to get into before I jump in to Whitmer and the video footage of what happened there. The missteps of Michigan legislator were many in 2023. So this is where I got the $4.1 billion. They always do a really good job because they're libertarian on trying to, point out big government problems. Whether it's Republican or Democrat, it's about big government being the problem. So Michigan voters may be confused about Democrats' relationship with big business. Voters will often hear them lament that big businesses don't pay their fair share of taxes. But voters should also notice that writing big checks to big business has been Michigan Democrats' highest priority, which I'm all for lowering taxes. Everybody makes more money, and you should be able to spend the money how you want. There shouldn't be any income tax, and we should have low business tax to promote creating businesses. Barrier to entry is, and ultimately regulations are those barriers to entry, is what ends up crushing small business or any competition whatsoever. Michigan lawmakers approved $4.1 billion in business subsidies this year. That is the most in a year since Granholm administration. Selective subsidies are ineffective at creating jobs, unfair to the businesses who don't get them, and expensive to taxpayers. Right, again, picking winners and losers. I didn't hire her at all, but we allegedly voted her in, but not to control the market. That is not what our politicians are supposed to be doing. They're definitely not smart enough to do that. And it always reminds me, very similar, but using people instead, what China did with the one-child policy. It's like you're playing God, and it's so dangerous every time it happens because people don't know. It's impossible to know everything. And so it's best to just let each person with their own experiences pick what they want to purchase with their dollar instead of having someone take it and spend it how they want. Politicians want headlines about companies opening new facilities and creating jobs, and they authorize billions in corporate welfare to get those headlines, but they are just headlines. I have like 10 articles to share with you on all the different ways that the Economic Development Corporation and here in Michigan and our governor are pushing automation, Industry 4.0 technologies through Automation Alley, right? World Economic Forum picked one spot in all of the United States of America in Detroit, an Automation Alley. So they're pushing automation and yet saying that they're paying for jobs. They're liars. Let's just call a spade a spade. There's not gonna be jobs. They're trying to replace us with robots because robots don't take any resources from them besides the one time. And then one person can control 100 robots, 1,000, depends on the software and the engineer. Anyway, forced unionization. No one should have to pay a union as a condition of employment. Hey, Jessica, good morning. By the way, sorry I didn't see that. And again, thank you guys for hanging out, doing a Michigan news roundup on Mondays, I think, from here on out. So, a lot going on here in the state. Michigan lawmakers eliminated the tax exemption for pensions in favor of a limited tax exemption for all types of incomes for seniors. Michigan Democrats reinstated a pension exemption. Okay, so this is forced unionizations. We're not going to get into all that, actually. I apologize. I will leave it down below, the link down below. But it's just showcasing the different ways that our government has not been using our money appropriately. So the Midwesterner is one of the only places that you can find some information besides Twitter, of course, which we're going to get into. So pro-Palestinian protesters confront Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer at home. Come open the door. So let's just watch it.
One, two, three, four. One, two, three, four. Whitmer, come open the door. Whitmer, come open the door. 5, 6, 7, 8. 5, 6, 7, 8. America is a terrorist state. America is a terrorist state.
All right, so that's one. Let's see, one video of the protests that took place. Now, in 2020, Whitmer spent $1.1 million taxpayer dollars to put up an 8-foot electric fence around her mansion. I wonder why she did that. She said it was because she was getting death threats, but I'm sure that she probably does. It's the internet, and I'm not condoning that whatsoever. However, does that mean that she should be able to fortify her fortress and hide in her home because she's doing a terrible job running the state? Now, this obviously is because she went to a pro-Israeli rally in October. So they're not happy with her stance. Now, and to be honest, Israel is the company that is creating the electric road, the road that will charge your smart vehicle. So I guess a smart road, that is an Israeli company. So our government is definitely working with a lot of Israel companies, and it's obvious that she is pro-Israel like majority of our politicians. It's not clear if Whitmer was at home at the time. She frequently travels the country raising campaign money and plotting for her future political aspirations. It's funny that this individual wrote it this way. I actually have another article out of Fox News, but Bill Maher is talking about Whitmer flying around and basically shadow campaigning for presidency. Now, they're talking about 2028, but yeah, we all know it's probably going to be 2024, right? Unless she's meant to stay in Michigan. She was also talking up the Michigan-Ohio game, which was played in Ann Arbor earlier in the day. Can we sing Ceasefire Now? They wondered as they attempted to reach Whitmer on the call box. Yeah, why not? But nicely. So let's see what this video's got going on.
Can we sing Free Palestine or Ceasefire Now? Ceasefire now.
Yeah, why not? But nicely. Ceasefire now.
Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now.
Now, I agree with ceasefire. I'm anti-war. I've been clear about my stance. And we always have to ask who benefits. And we also have to ask who is more powerful in this situation. Who's the underdog here? Again, not condoning any violence whatsoever. It's loss of human life is always a tragedy, no matter what skin color they are. But the problem is we have warmongers in our government.
Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now.
Okay.
Ceasefire now.
She's not Elsa. She knows.
It's a non-working number for the state of Michigan. Real talk.
But she doesn't care.
Whitmer, you can't hide.
Whitmer, you can't hide.
We charge you with genocide.
We charge you with genocide.
Whitmer, you can't hide.
Whitmer, you can't hide.
We charge you with genocide.
We charge you with genocide.
Whitmer, you can't hide.
Whitmer, you can't hide.
We charge you with genocide.
We charge you with genocide.
All right, so you get the picture on that. I do have to say that I do not agree with going to politicians' homes. I didn't agree with Kavanaugh either when people were protesting Kavanaugh. I think it's very dangerous. It sets a dangerous precedent. Who's going to want to be what good person that loves their family is going to want to be a politician if they have to worry about these things? But you know, the fact that you don't really hear much about it in the mainstream media, at least I haven't. You let me know if you've heard about this. That really bothers me because we should know that these protests are happening. Now, again, that fence that you saw in the background is electric. So, and I'm sure she's got plenty of security guards with guns. She can have guns. The government can have guns. But we, the people, we're too dangerous to have guns. But yeah, so here is the Michigan Governor Whitmer builds 8-foot fence around the around the home, $1.1 million taxpayer money, September 9th, 2020. So there's just proof of that. Now, obnoxious pro-Hamas protesters drown out children's choir at Ypsilanti Christmas tree lighting. I don't see why you would do this. The children did not do anything, and this whole, war between Islam and Christianity, I think that we should not play into that whatsoever. I think we should respect each other's differences. Different cultures have different ideas, and I'm pretty sure that one of the things with the Tower of Babel, is that everybody was speaking the same language, and so it's God broke that up. Whether that's symbolism or literal, basically, it's not a good thing for everybody to be one like that. And basically, I'm saying, please just respect each other. There is no reason why you should drown out these poor kids when they're trying to sing. What's up, Zoltan the man? Reporting for duty. You're late. No, I appreciate you being here. I was just sharing some video on Whitmer what's going on with her and the pro-Palestinian protests that happened. Not a lot of information out. I haven't seen any articles besides the Midwesterner on the topic, so it's very suspicious to me. But now we're talking about pro-Hamas, or rather pro-Palestinian, I'm sure. But it could be pro-Hamas, I'm not sure. They're protesting over singing going on. That's happened every year. I guess a tradition in the UP. We're going to watch a little bit of this. It's only a minute 40.
Palestine will be free. Free Palestine. Free Palestine.
There's definitely a big difference between free Palestine and being pro-Palestine and being pro-Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist organization largely funded by, United States of America. Israel funded, Netanyahu funded them as well. So we have to look into that and ask why. But
Fire. They're going to be at the freight house too. So as soon as we light the tree, we'll all head over to the freight house. Here's a guy you might know. From the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. Palestine will be free.
oh, very nice. Nice big tree. I guess this happens every year up there. Wearing their mask. Why do they wear masks though? Are they trying to hide, or are they afraid of a disease? That's my question. Let me know what you think. Why do they wear the masks? I guess every individual is different. Some probably wear it because they're afraid of disease and they want to hide, right? All right, so this is Bill Maher hits Newsom Whitmer for running shadow 2024 campaigns, which I concur. Bill Maher, he's half of an idiot, in my opinion. I used to love him. His video on religion I thought was just so witty back when I was an atheist. Now I look at it and it's awful. I'm not gonna lie. It's a little cringe. You know how you look back and if you were goth for a little while, it's kind of cringy. It's the same. I feel the same way about liking Bill Maher and thinking he was just so smart with his little jabs. But anyway, that's not what this is about. He is right, in my opinion. Both Gavin Newsom and Whitmer are running basically shadow campaigns. So real-time host Bill Maher, who also has a podcast, of course, which you should check out. He actually destroyed Neil deGrasse Tyson, which was hilarious. That guy is such a propagandist, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Anyway, took a swipe at prominent Democrats whom he accused of running shadow campaigns while offering kudos to Rep. Dean Phillips of Minnesota, who formally launched a primary challenge against Biden. He praised for Phillips' entry into the Democratic primary last week, and while he stressed to the candidate it wasn't necessarily an endorsement, he told the 2024 hopeful he could eventually endorse him. Let's see. I endorsed the idea, he said Friday, because I did an editorial, excuse me, a couple weeks ago calling Biden Ruth Bader Biden. And look, we both struggle with the same thing. We like Joe Biden, right? And we think he's done a good job. Ruth Bader Ginsburg did a good job and did not know when to quit, and that's why you're here. And it's not like others are doing this in a sort of shadow campaign, Maher said. I mean, Gavin Newsom, our governor, seems to be all over the world. Come down here, Phillips, who has been outspoken encouraging other Democrats to enter the primary, pointed out There are 21 of us on the ballot in New Hampshire, telling Maher all it takes is a $1,000 check and being a 35-year-old U.S.-born citizen to become a candidate. Okay, this is bullshit. I'm going to just say it. I'm sorry for my French. I'll get better at that. But I actually like libertarian, Dr. Michael Recktenwald, and only because I read his book that just came out this year, so before he was even running. Now his publisher dropped him. He's basically being canceled. The Mises Caucus or whatever has dropped his podcast, which he isn't bashing them or anything, but basically he's being canceled. He has to spend all the money up front, and it takes at least $500,000 to actually be a contestant. So just saying, oh, you owe $1,000 check and be 35. No, give me a break. And again, that's not just because he's running for president. By the way, it's because he chose not to be pro-Israel. He's not pro-Palestine either. He's saying no war. And so if you say no war instead of being pro-Israel, you will be canceled if you're trying to run for president, or so it seems. He also mentioned how, in his failed effort to recruit another formidable challenger, he attempted to corral Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, who he said would make an outstanding president. And she's one of those who's running a shadow campaign. Maher interjected. Everybody's waiting until 2028, Phillips said, and I'm making the contention to all of you tonight that I'm not sure that we will have a 2028 election in the way that we expect to happen, if the inevitable happens, and it is President Biden against Donald Trump. Now, I've been saying this too, but to me it's weird. Why is this guy saying that? What do you mean? But of course he's saying because if it's Biden versus Trump, Trump's going to win and he's going to take away all the rights and completely destroy the Democrats, and there won't be any elections ever again. Now, it's funny because I don't agree with Democrats majority of the time. I do think that this is the plan, but it's not Donald Trump that's enacting it. He's just one of the people in the play, okay? But the fact that they're saying this in the Fox News 2028 election, I'm not sure we will have a 2028 election in the way that we expect to happen. And I agree. The United Nations will be involved before then, unfortunately. That's my guess. Probabilities, right? 60% probable. All right, I'm not going to get into the rest of that article. You get the point. I think that's the only time they mention Whitmer. I'm going to double check because that's really what this is all about. Yes. Okay. So next up, judge wants to know why men tied to Governor Whitmer kidnap plot were moved to federal prisons. A judge wants to know why 2 men convicted of secondary roles in the plot to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer, the time when the government went after its own people. Entrapment, that's what I'm trying to say. Paul Beller and Joe Morrison are entitled to appeal their convictions following a trial on state charges in Jackson County in 2022, but their lawyers said it's extremely hard to work with them from hundreds of miles away. They said the distance interferes with their right to have access to Michigan courts. The transfer is mind-boggling and appalling, said Michael Ferroni, who represents Morrison. Whatever we may say about this case, however we may feel about it, I think we can agree we're not dealing with Al-Qaeda. But according to our government, we really are very similar to Al-Qaeda if we don't just follow along with what they want. Wasn't Stretch and Gretchen part of the UN Young Global Leader program, or is that a red pill psyop? I don't see her on any lists. So that's not to say, though, that she wasn't. The lists have been scrubbed. It's hard to tell, basically, with what's going on. She is definitely involved. Whether she was a young global leader or not, she sold out to Schwab and Davos. She wants to be a part of the elitists, rather. Sorry, they're not elite in any way. They're elitists. Yeah, I'm not sure. But you know what? I'm going to look into it. If I find any information on that, I'll share it with you guys. Bellar, Morrison, and Pete Musico were found guilty of providing material support for a terrorist act and other charges. They had no direct role in the kidnapping conspiracy, but had held gun training with leader Adam Fox and shared his disgust for Whitmer. Police and public officials, especially after COVID-19 restrictions were imposed. Okay, so they had no direct role in kidnapping, but they held gun training? So, is that illegal to hold gun training? And sharing disgust. I'm sharing disgust right now. I do it all the time. So I could go to jail for sharing disgust in America. Something seems wrong to me about that. I mean, Morrison was shipped to a federal prison in Illinois, and Bellar is in Pennsylvania. Musico is in West Virginia, though he wasn't formally challenged that placement like the other. He hasn't formally challenged that placement. Trying to communicate with Mr. Bellar is almost non-existent, Ambrose said, according to the courtroom video posted online. Assistant Attorney General John Pallas said he didn't know specifically why the 3 men were transferred out of Michigan, other than general safety concerns. Without that information, it feels like we're flying blind, Judge Thomas Wilson said. The state typically pays around $100 a day to the federal government to house a prisoner. Wow. So I'm paying $100 a day to the federal government to house a prisoner that I don't even think should be a prisoner. Like, what was his actual crime besides being caught up in a government conspiracy that was basically meant to justify Whitmer? And look over here, Whitmer's a victim. She's not the tyrant. She's not the perpetrator. She's just a victim. Corrections Department spokesman Kyle Kaminsky told the Associated Press that it was $100 a day. That would roughly add up to $110,000 a year for 3 men. Wow. Obviously, it's concerning. Why did they move them? You know, probably to sweep them away from the Michiganders' consciousness. But we need to remember that our own government is actually going after us, and these are the different methods and how they do it. So here's another method on how they do it. In Michigan, regulations contribute to high housing costs. Half as many housing permits were issued in 2022 as in 2005 in Michigan. This came out November 24th. Now, this makes sense 100% and connects to everything else going on if you understand United Nations Agenda 21. I know I talk about it almost every video, but the reason why they put all these regulations in place is because you will own nothing and be happy. Somebody will own it, but you will have to rent it. And so barriers to entry, those regulations, that billionaires, millionaires, they don't care about them. They'll pay whatever. It's we, the people, that won't be able to basically bypass those barriers to entry with money. And that's how it will be in every single thing. The congestion zone in New York City, rich people won't care. They'll drive through Madison Square Garden. Poor people, you get to walk or bike. Going over here, Michigan has a housing problem. There were 46,000 housing units permitted in the state in 2005, but only 20,983 permits were issued in 2022, less than half of the number issued in 2025. The decline may explain why housing has become more expensive. These are all just symptoms of the disease. Household incomes have increased over the years, but the cost of a house has gone up even more. The national median housing price went up 294% between 2000 and 2022. Yeah, and you know what? It's funny. If you look into Automation Alley, 1999 is when it was created. So, or it was 1998, but I know it was right there, right before 2000 when they had the Y2K freak out. They've just been playing us like fiddles for a long time, if you look back at it. But we live in a time where the truth is being revealed, thankfully, and people are starting, not everybody, but there are more and more people that are starting to realize it because it affects them. So the more that they put the squeeze on, the more it'll affect every single person, all your neighbors, and then we can actually start talking about solutions to the problem. The national median housing price went, okay, I already said that, sorry. By contrast, the median household income increased by 77% over the same time. Inflation is one factor behind the rising cost of housing and is beyond the control of state officials. But regulations, many imposed at the state and local level, add almost 23% to housing costs, according to the National Association of Home Builders. It goes on. I'm just going to read down here. Licensing does not just affect homeowners and new construction. Landlords often increase rent to accommodate for the costs of regulations that lawmakers impose on rental properties. So there you go. people want to say, oh, it's just renters are greedy. Now, some of them, the corporate run, like BlackRock, Vanguard, yeah, absolutely, they're greedy. They have no reason not to be. It's almost like the government, pretty much is the government, the central power. It's not good. But if you have normal people that save up their money and they buy some houses and they have, they're landlords, but not corporate landlords, those individuals, unfortunately, don't make enough money to easily put these new regulations into place, these building codes, right? So if you have a huge building that has tons of, it's gas, right? Every unit has a gas stove. Well, new regulations, new building code states that it has to be electric. So now you have to change all of that. Who is going to pay for that? Unfortunately, the landlord won't. It'll go to the person that's renting. It'll go to the renter. Connie, good morning. Sorry I'm late. Thank you. I appreciate you joining me, and better late than never. And Dragonfly says federal prison are low on staffing. I have a friend that works in a federal prison. I have no doubt about that. Basically, everything is short. Now, I have some articles coming up here on exactly how they're going to fix that problem. So thank you for bringing that up. It's relevant to today's video. Real quick before I get into it, I wanted to just show you this. Isn't this green? This is beautiful. Isn't that what we want for the world? This is, I mean, I don't know how you can get more, what would you call it, satanic? I mean, it's like you're in the upside down, right? It's green technology. There's nothing green about it. A hailstorm would decimate that whole area and poison it. I don't know if they get hailstorms in Japan, never been, wanted to go, tried really hard in the military to go overseas, but the Lord works in mysterious ways. It wasn't meant to be. It was just meant to go one desert to another. But yeah, I could see how that was beautiful. Now it looks like a piece of technology. If you look at it from space, it probably looked like a computer chip. This is what we're doing. We're digitizing the world. We're making a digital twin. And again, it's all playing God. All right, so just to give you some perspective, this is our money going towards automation. Michigan universities to get $775,000 for mobility grants. Connie says disgustingly non-green. I know, it's just awful. I mean, thinking about what we're going to do with all of that terrible material when the time comes, it's like, we're just not thinking. We're just not thinking. They're thinking. The elitist pricks are thinking. We're not. Well, we're starting to, right? We're starting to. So come down here, the University of Michigan, $500,000 to, a tech lab to place students in startup companies that focus on connected, autonomous, electric, and shared vehicles. Michigan Tech University, $100,000 to establish a drone operator training program for training unmanned aircraft systems and drone pilots to safely operate around different types of infrastructure and collect condition data for effective asset management of bridges, roads, and other infrastructure, which, if you come, let's see, one of these articles is basically saying robots are going to be in charge. So the last time FDR created a bunch of, wasn't it FDR? Created a bunch of jobs with building dams and bridges and infrastructure, right? This time, those jobs are not going to be there. When they decide to update the infrastructure, it's going to be robots that do it. Western Michigan University, $175,000 to establish West Michigan e-mobility testing asset. Western Michigan University Center for Advanced Vehicle Design and Simulation will develop a piece of equipment to test gears at high rotational speeds. The Office of Future Mobility and Electrification. Man, I can't believe that we have a government entity that's called that. In partnership with the MEDC, of course, and the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, all these different government entities, they just need to go. launched the MP4 grant program to help support partnerships and programs that address emerging mobility systems across all transportation modes, including air, ground, marine, and off-road throughout Michigan. Whether on the ground or in the sky, mobility innovation is critical to ensuring Michigan's high-tech leadership, Michigan Chief Mobility Officer Justine Johnson said in a statement. These projects represent the strong research and collaboration that exists in Michigan's mobility ecosystem. When educational and research institutions collaborate with the state, great things happen. Yes, great things happen for a small group of people. The new grant program complements already existing grant programs offered by the state, including Mobility Wallet Challenge and the Michigan Mobility Funding Platform. So this comes out of the Center Square. I think they do really good work. Here is something dystopian that's going to come out of all of this tech. Good morning, Travel Around Susie. Thank you for stopping in. Hopefully your travels are going well. It's getting colder now, so try to stay warm. I hate the cold. Anyway, look at this. Doesn't this look like the Terminator or something? Oh, it's terrible. Can't really see it though. So 8-hour battery device can quickly measure body temperature amid crowds. So this right here is like a Google Glasses on their helmet, and they can register temperature 100 per minute, I think is what it is. 100 people per minute. They can register, like just scan your temperature while you're walking down the road. This is in China, of course. Infrared cameras can determine temperatures from up to 5 meters away. Look at that. This is what the cops are walking around seeing. It does remind me of the Terminator, Blade Runner, Demolition Man. They Live, all these sci-fi dystopians, and it's like, just like the Bible, you know, there are people that are actively trying to fulfill the prophecy. Even though it says, you know, crazy things are going to happen, there are people that are trying really hard to fulfill that prophecy. It's the same kind of thing to me. It's like there are people that are trying to fulfill this dystopian nightmare. Like they're literally doing everything possible to bring about a Brave New World, 1984, Fahrenheit 451, The Giver, those types of books. Why? And that's the thing I always ask is like, why? If it wasn't written, would this be happening? Like, if the prophecy was not written, there wouldn't be people that are actively trying to make it come about. And so would it even happen? It's something that's like, it drives me a little crazy. All right, so the smart device is able to scan QR codes and apply facial recognition. This is why QR codes are everywhere, that they're trying to get you used to it. They're trying to get us used to it. Baron says, sorry I'm late, here now. Thank you very much for hanging out. Again, someone else, Connie, says late too. Better late than never. Connie says some of these high-tech companies, the LG project in Holland, the Marshall project, are laying hundreds off. What is going on? Well, definitely they're automating more and more, but there is a contraction going on. And, you know, people think that they want everybody to be in a smart car, an electric car, but that's not true. They don't want most people to have a private vehicle at all. So they probably have enough vehicles now for every city that they want to have autonomous vehicles, you know, to have them, electric vehicles. So you will own nothing by 2030. So that means you will just, you know, use your phone or whatever, and you go beep, boop, beep, and the car drives up automatically. Now, that's the thing, too. I told my best friend, there's no way a human and AI could ever drive together because humans can do things that AI cannot account for because we're not programmed by human beings. So in order for self-driving vehicles to exist and not to have crashes all the time, you cannot have human drivers. None. Sounds like a wonky rave on acid. About that. acid was before my time. Now it's mushrooms, right? Mushrooms are being legalized all over the place. Chinese police facial recognition glasses can identify car plates and human faces and more, and automatically match them with police database to search and arrest anyone considered as enemies of the state. Oh, this just shows they put these little glasses on. Yep, look at that. It comes up. This is augmented virtual reality. NASA's been using it for years to, dupe children. NASA's for children. You never hear about it as an adult, but that's a whole nother topic for a different day. But this augmented virtual reality, kind of like what the Pokemon game that merged virtual reality with the real world. That's what they have in their glasses. And the NASA, of course, they have eye contacts. But we're not going to get that technology right away. They have to ease us into it all. They have to act like this is just new technology. No, they've had it. The government has had this technology for at least 20 years. Crazy, yeah. I mean, if you guys watch Black Mirror, I'm sure maybe you haven't heard of it, but it's a Netflix show, dystopian, that you should check out. I mean, we're seeing a lot of it in the real world, so maybe it's not very fun anymore. But New World Order police in China, helmets with facial recognition, thermal cameras, temperature, 100 people in 2 minutes. 2 minutes. They connect to a command center via 5G. This is what the Industry 4.0 Internet of Things is really all about. Everything has to talk to everything in order for complete control. Here is Amazon, who Michigan just made a deal with for solar farm in Lawrence Township, if you haven't heard that. But this is what's going to replace us right here by 2030. Yeah, these people watching, it's like, now you could lose your job, or you could try to become proficient at AI prompting, I guess. It's just crazy to me. What's really crazy is that there's no regulation, and our military, of course, is out of control, military-industrial complex. And so they've been making robots, again, for years. I remember all the way back in 2012, I read about you know what? I'm going to see if I can find it. Eater robot. Robot was designed to run on plant-based items. Oh, okay. Right. So this robot can consume biomass and turn it into energy. Now, they say it's for vegetation, but biomass, human beings, also could be considered a biomass, okay? So they could turn human beings into fuel, just like the Matrix. And this was all the way back in 2012, I read about this stupid, dangerous, evil thing. Energetically autonomous tactical robot, Eater, don't you love that it's named that? Was intended to consume vegetation, not animals, one of the robot's inventors told Reuters. Yeah, right. Yet claims circulating on social media suggest without evidence that the biological matter the robot was designed to fuel itself on could mean the flesh of mammals. A Facebook video shares at the time of writing has been reshared. Okay, flesh-eating robot, it's a crazy world. Right. It is a crazy world. So let's see, the video is on TikTok. Oh, do I have TikTok? I don't.
I read about this thing DARPA was putting together. A robot called the Eater robot. It's a robot that fuels itself on biological matter.
You can say, no, we don't mean biological material in that way. We need plant matter, you know, dead rodents and what have you. But there's a real fucking robot that they designed that eats biological material as fuel.
It is nuts. And that is just one of the many things our crazy black budget does for the government, which of course I am not for. Let's see if I can find anything else. But if all you have to do is type in robotics in Twitter, and you can start to see exactly all the things that they're trying to do here to replace people. So we got an AI powered massage robot. So masseuses, you will be replaced. Now, I have to say the good news is there's no way that robot could really replace human touch. But it's better than nothing at all. And that is the problem with a lot of these this robot stuff. I mean, think about it. If you don't have somebody to rub your back every day, you could buy a robot for 10 grand and you can get your back rubbed every day. That'd be kind of cool. Let's see. Yeah, drones for delivering packages so that you never have to leave your house. That's another thing coming. Gotta love that. Staying at the world's first robot hotel. There's just so much on Twitter. Weird hotel ever. Look at this.
Welcome to Henna Hotel.
Yeah. It's creepy. It really is. McDonald's is already happening. And see, that's the thing. One of these articles says something about barrier to entry. It's the barrier to entry is so low for robotics, and it's so high for people. Again, when you have high minimum wage, $25 an hour, minimum wage, that's a barrier to entry for businesses where they could just spend $25,000 one time and have a robot forever that doesn't take vacation or anything else. It's because our government regulations, we are now being replaced at a faster rate than ever before. In-hand object manipulation is a dexterity litmus test for robot hands. I mean, because yeah, if you think about it, man, how hard would it be to recreate just the human hand? Like, this is amazing. An amazing tool that we were given, and trying to replicate it, you saw how the robots were. They're weird, and their legs are backwards because knees are difficult to replicate. It's pretty amazing.
It can cook a variety.
Robotic vending machine. So you get the point. I'm going to get into some articles, but I wanted to share right here. Look at this one. This robotic thread could remove blood clots in the brain. I mean, think about how creepy that is. 2018, Bayer had a pill that had a chip in the pill that when you digested it, it actually, not when you swallowed it, but when your body actually broke it down, it sent a signal to your phone, and you could choose to send that signal to your doctor or not. That was in 2018, guys. A chip small enough to be in a pill and you wouldn't even know it. This is creepy. This little thing right here. I'm sorry, it's creepy as hell. And Zoltan the man says, would love to hear your thoughts on NASA and space, but I get it different day. I will, but I'm going to do it on Rumble, which is something I am going to announce next year. I think Mondays will be Michigan News Roundup here on YouTube and Rumble, hopefully. But then I'm going to do more live streams on YouTube because I did a January 6th video. It got age restricted, did really poorly. It's only gotten like 50 views. And I don't know how it's doing on Rumble, but I just know that there's too much censorship for what I want to talk about on YouTube, but I'm going to stay here and just share news on Mondays with y'all. But yeah, I will do a NASA video on Rumble. Let's see. Yeah, Chinese. Of course, we always have this techno music. I don't know if this is real though. This could be fake, so I'm not going to continue watching that. It could be AI stuff. All right, so you get the idea. Tons of robotic news. Construction robot builds massive stone wall on its own. I'm not going to get into this entirely. New scientists, a robotic construction vehicle used 3D digital mapping and AI to learn the best placement for each stone in the wall without instruction from a human. So there goes my theory that, you have one person that's on the job kind of making sure everything's programmed. But there should be, because somebody died from a robot. And I have the article, and I apologize it's taken me so long to find it. I just have too many. Here we go. Work robot blamed for Michigan woman's death. This came out in 2017, so quite some time ago, but I never heard about it. A journeyman maintenance technician died when a manufacturing robot crushed her head as she performed machinery adjustments, her husband claims in a federal lawsuit. Wanda was working in either Section 140 or 150 within the 100 cell when a robot from Section 130 took Wanda by surprise, entering the section she was working in. Upon entering the section, the robot hit and crushed Wanda's head between a hitch assembly it was attempting to place in the fixture of Section 140 and a hitch assembly that was already in the fixture. Holbrook was found by co-workers and pronounced dead at the scene from severe head trauma. The lawsuit blames defendants Prodamax Automation Canada, Flexingate LLC. Okay, these robotics companies for the death. According to the complaint, the Nachi and Lincoln made the robots while Flexingate and Prodamax helped with installation and services. The robot from Section 130 should never have entered into Section 140 and should have never attempted to load a hitch assembly within a fixture that was already loaded with a hitch assembly. The complaint states a failure of one or more defendants' safety systems or devices had taken place, causing Wanda's death. The lawsuit also says the automation system in the work area did not adhere to numerous safety regulations, which helped cause the incident. Safety doors that were installed specifically to prevent robot movements were not effective, the widower claimed. So, of course, this was deemed an accident, and perhaps it was just an accident, just programming malfunction. But what happens when it's not that anymore? You really do get like a Terminator type of situation, unfortunately. So meet Moxie, the newest nurse assistant on Trinity, Michigan medical team. Unfortunately, in 2021, my mother-in-law broke a bone in her leg. It was obviously the worst year ever to go through something like that. It's always terrible, but when, only one person could go in, it was a nightmare, okay? This robot was walking around then, or actually rolling around, doesn't really walk, it rolls. And again, dystopian. If I had one, Moxie's resume would offer it as a parent near perfect medical assistant, a worker both capable and willing to work nearly around the clock and who requires no vacation time or health benefits. Here's another thing Operation Warp Speed helped, right? They're going to say that there's a shortage. They need these robots. But why is there a shortage? Because they forced something that people didn't want. And Moxie needs no sick time or sleep either, save for 2-hour-a-day deep charge at a charging port. And complaining, like when an elevator or sliding door is frustrating, is a lightning chirp, as if to question a passerby, please help. She's programmed to be polite, said Shannon Mavis, nurse education coordinator at Trinity Health, Oakland. Mavis refers to Moxie as a she, but not everyone at the hospital does. Why aren't we giving genders to robots and then trying to completely diminish gender in people? It's so ridiculous. Moxie is a small, non-human solution to a very large human problem, the nation's critical shortage of healthcare workers, the problem that our own government created. And, on-the-job training is it's way better than college ever could be. OJT, streamline that. Yeah. In under 3 years, Michigan hospitals have taken more than 1,600 beds offline because of worker shortages, and 13% of hospital positions throughout the state are unfilled, according to the most recent figures in the Michigan Health and Hospital Association. Last year, 2 in 5 nurses reported they plan to leave their roles over the next 12 months. This was occurring before the pandemic. That said, Elizabeth Cutter, MHA Senior Director of Government and Political Affairs. Of course she'd say that. She's working for the government. She's got to protect her freaking employer. Who gathered earlier this week, okay, the pandemic, Cutter said, really accelerated and exacerbated the problem. It's impacting real people and real people's access to care. No, the pandemic policies implemented by tyrannical government. That is what created the shortages. Because if people didn't get it, again, they got fired, and some people got sick and can't work anymore. Enter Moxie, who has been quietly rolling through the hallway since July at Trinity, Oakland. Moxie's autonomous AI mapping sensor system allow for internalizing directions, pass through doors, and in most instances, reach its destination without help. Moxie can detect passerby, stopping abruptly to allow them to pass. Gosh, a lot of sensors on this little guy, little girl, whatever. And with a flexible arm and precise gripper, Moxie can fetch meds. It has a camera, so it can record everything that's going on in the hospital at all times. You can constantly be spied on. You're sitting in your hospital bed being spied on by a robot. Each of these tasks eat away at nurses' 12-hour shift, footsteps down a hallway. They tracked nurses' footsteps. This is where it's going to go. Hey, why did you do 5 footsteps in that direction? That was completely inefficient. You should not have done that. It's a nightmare. Everything you do, how many steps you take as a nurse, and where, being tracked at all times. Like, why would anybody want to be a nurse? This is why there's going to be a parallel system that pops up where real nurses, healthcare workers, they're actually going to go directly to people. They're not going to work in hospitals, or they're going to create a more natural, holistic hospital. Of course, underground, because our government won't allow it for now. It's dangerous. Like raw milk is illegal. Herbs are going to be illegal. Dragonfly says, my grandbaby died 5 on the go in the womb. She works as a nurse, no shots, but they made her take many PCR tests. I am very, very sorry for your loss, Dragonfly. It's a very awful thing. Miscarriages are up drastically, hundreds of percentage. I don't know the exact, but a lot of terrible things have happened in the last 3 years. And fertility has definitely been attacked. It was just crazy people saying that 3 years ago, according to the mainstream media. Now, even the mainstream media is having to report on the truth. Fertility is down immensely, and I wonder why. Is it because the elitist pricks have a depopulation agenda and they have robots to replace us? Perhaps. Connie says, what is future job prospects, or do they want us barely breathing and biding our time with useless activity? That is a wonderful question. I do think, I'm like, what is the point of even having 500 million people, if alive, which is what they want? Georgia Guidestones says 500 million people in the whole world, which is just nuts. But if they just want them in the metaverse, like plugged in, why? If you have robots to do all of the work, I just don't understand why they do want to do that. Ultimate control, is it really just this like psychotic ultra control that is upon us? I'm not really sure either, but that's a great question. Now, instead, through keystrokes at specialized tablets throughout the hospital, nurses, pharmacists, lab staff, and others can delegate some tasks to one of 2 Moxie units at Trinity. By design, the 3D printed high-grade plastic nurse assistant. So people didn't even create this. Robot 3D printing did. High-grade plastic nurse assistant doesn't work at the bedside, nor does it interact with patients unless they happen to... you know what? You know, if you are a billionaire, I guess you would want real people to give you a back massage, right? So there are going to be real masseuses, but they're just going to be for the kings and queens that are left, perhaps. Just an idea. By design, let's see, 3D printed. Behind the scenes, the hospital's Moxie unit has made 15,829 deliveries over 7,000 hours by mid-May, according to Trinity. $45,000 grant from the Trinity Foundation covered the startup costs of the 2 units. Monthly fees are $2 an hour to have robots at the ready, in addition to $14 an hour for each of Moxie's working hours. So wait, why they're still... Is that just to pay the cost of the robot? I don't get it. $11,000 a month. I guess, is that to pay the loan off? I'm not really sure, because obviously the whole point is that you don't have to pay an hourly wage to a robot. On one recent weekday at Trinity's Southern Tower, where patients were recovering from surgery, one of the 2 Moxie units had just arrived with its instructions. A patient needed cardiac readings captured on a monitor to be read by the oh my goodness. This word defeated me today. Lab downstairs. Now, with the patient's monitor secured inside the torso drawer, Moxie swiveled and slid toward the double door, spinning its head noiselessly by scan checkerboard code next to the door to reorient it. Wow. Okay, do healthcare robots make a difference? In one Washington University in St. Louis, researchers summarized their findings by describing a 4-hour increment of a nurse's shift. In that time, nurses spent about 57 minutes communicating with patients, as well as other nurses, and about 53 minutes charting and reviewing medical records. Another 16 minutes was spent on administering meds. In the time left in the 4-hour increment, the nurses spent about 8 minutes getting medications and an additional 14 minutes on tasks that they can give to the robot that included fetching supplies or delivering food trays. Again, everything you were doing is being monitored. It was Friese's own research last year that 2 in 5 nurses said they plan to leave their roles over the next 12 months, a frequent result of too many hours, too few nurses, and the resulting burnout. I do feel very sorry for nurses. All I can say is, next time we need to stick together, because this is what happens when you don't. Letting your fellow worker get fired because they didn't want to do what the government was forcing them to do, you should have never let that happen, and you wouldn't have shortages right now. Pam said AI robots like Moxie will continue to appear in healthcare settings, but there are concerns along with any promised benefits, and he too stressed their limitations. If a nurse needs a catheter for a blood draw, he or she might also remember in the supply room that the gauze supply is low back on the floor and grab an extra roll. But Moxie would have to be specifically instructed. Exactly. And if computers go down, staff can quickly turn to paperwork in a pinch. A human workaround. I mean, really, again, they are going to try to replace us, and they will get more and more efficient. But there is nothing more efficient than a human being. Like, I'm sorry, we are the best of the best on this plane of existence, and we are supposed to be stewards of this land because of it. Any kind of technological device must be used only in limited ways and with humans overseeing the work, and they must not put patients ill at ease, he said. Right. Moxie didn't receive a warm welcome at first, as Renee Gagelard, the hospital's executive director of nursing and advanced practice professionals, escorted Moxie from floor to floor and to the hospital's governance meeting to make introductions to the staff. It didn't matter that Moxie's pop-up drawer was full of candy as an icebreaker. Staff saw instead a metal gripper in place of warm hands. They worried that leaders were trying to substitute an AI system for the compassion and intuition of a good nurse, said Doug Descenzo, chief nursing officer at Trinity's Michigan region. That is exactly what I fear as well. Well, I don't fear. That's what I think. Of course, you will never have a robot be as good as a human being. My daughter-in-law is working double shifts because of shortages. She works in a mental health facility. That's got to be a really tough job as it is, but being shorthanded, I can't even imagine it. Hopefully, she's keeping her mental health strong, fortified. Are there safeguards against... And there are safeguards against mix-ups. Items are placed in and removed from Moxie's drawers only with a swipe of a staff's ID, and nurses double-check medications before administering them. Patients need not worry, said the hospital's AI boards and metal grippers will never be able to replace the insight, compassion, and healing touch of a human nurse, he said. Moxie was never intended to take anyone's job. It's supposed to enhance their job. Well, let's hope so. Look at this enhancement. Because of course they're doing the same thing. He is for the world. It's not just America. But you live in Michigan, this is what we can expect, right? Your delivery robot is not going to do so good. Wheels need chains or spikes. Let's see what else we got. We go here. I typed in medical robot, by the way, and this is what shows up. A bunch of Beijing medical robot enterprise innovation. The medical robot industry market value will reach 7 billion by 2025. 7 billion won, I think is how you say it. Look at this. Isn't this crazy? This is what's going to be doing surgery on human beings. What do you guys think about the future? Oh, man. I think we should stop just cutting ourselves open, and maybe we should focus on, changing our diet and such in order to get healthy instead of cutting things out like we like to do. So adapting to labor trends, West Michigan manufacturers show that the necessity is the mother of automation. Huh. So by locking everything down, they necessitized, if that's even a word, the automation. They made it a necessity. Same thing with the strikes. The more we strike, even though they're right, they're not getting paid enough, it doesn't matter. The more you strike, the more you're demolishing your own job. They set up this system. It's so diabolical, it's almost unfathomable. And it seems like it's just this made up crazy conspiracy theory until you actually look at everything. Like, try to look at all the pieces and then back up. And the only thing that makes sense is that they want inventory and control of every resource on the planet. And how do you go about doing that? This is how you do it. Baron says, I will put no trespassing sign written in cursive. Yes, you know what? I've been practicing cursive. I need to do it more. But it's extremely important for your brain, actually. People that can write in cursive, is that it's actually better. You're not more intelligent, but it helps because of the nature of the connections. It helps with connections in your brain. Okay, there's some studies out there, which I can pull up not right now, but I can pull up sometime to show you guys. But what else? Here, America's bridges, factories, highways are in dire need of repairs. Bring in the robots. Growing cadre of tech companies are stepping up to address a massive problem hiding in plain sight, the aging of trillions of dollars with the bridges, tunnels, and factories. Now, one of the things they're doing, though, is that they are pinpointing all of the bridges and the culverts and all of the dams and all of the infrastructure that they want to take out. So they're going to upgrade some and just completely get rid of most for the Wildlands Project, or also known as America the Beautiful Challenge. So robots, baby. Now we have robot waiters, the future. This Michigan restaurant thinks so. Again, how about the massive don't want to work or quiet quitting? Have you guys heard of quiet quitting? Where you go to work every day, but you do as little as possible. So that way you don't get fired, but you're also not doing anything for the company. So service is as terrible as possible. All of these things lead to business owners picking up robots. This Michigan restaurant hired a robotic waiter during the pandemic. The robot was so successful, it brought in 2 more. Lee Zai, probably wrong, was having trouble finding staff for Noodletopia, his Madison Heights, Michigan restaurant in the summer of 2021. So he bought a robotic waiter. The robot was so successful, he added 2 more. Now 1 robot leads diners to their seats, while another delivers bowls of steaming noodles to tables. Employees pile dirty dishes onto a 3rd robot to shuttle back to the kitchen. He only needs 3 people to do the same volume of business that 5 or 6 people used to handle, and they save him money. A robot costs around $15,000, he said, but a person costs $5,000 to $6,000 per month. He said the robots give human servers more time to mingle with customers, which increases tips, and customers often post videos of robots on social media that entice others to visit. Besides saving labor, the robots generate business. You see, I probably went on this tangent before, but I was standing in line at Meijer, and an individual was ahead of me and started talking to me about something, and food prices came up, and I talked about inflation, because inflation, you inflate the money supply, which Biden, Trump, and Obama has done nothing but inflate the money supply. That diminishes the value of the dollar. Therefore, everything costs a lot more because our dollar is worth less. But she said, oh, it's because of greedy corrupt companies. Now, don't get me wrong. It's a lot easier for Walmart to be corrupt now that it's decimated in the last 3 years tons of small businesses. But most business, it's really the law of supply and demand is a law for a reason. And if you have obviously the same amount of demand and then supply lowers, you're going to have higher prices as well. So I just think that I don't even know where this whole thing. Oh, that's how it started. I'm sorry. She started talking to me about the self-checkout. That's how she got into a conversation with me, and we completely agreed that self-checkout is bull. My mom always goes to self-checkout, and I always tell her, "Why are you working for Meijer? Don't work for Meijer. Go to some, like, you were replacing the employee by doing that." So that's how we got into a conversation, and we agreed that we go to a human being so that the human being has a job and you talk to somebody, like have a human connection. We don't get very many nowadays. But anyway, robots generate business. You may have already seen them in restaurants, waste-time machines that can greet guests, lead them to their tables, deliver food and drinks, and ferry dirty dishes to the kitchen. Some have cat-like faces, even purr when you scratch their heads. This is also another reason why we should be able to let children work, right? I mean, if you were a 10-year-old boy, you would be going and selling newspapers or running notes between businessmen, and then you can start making connections and stuff. Now, people don't work at all until 18, if they even do. Basically, our adults are not really adults. They never got to grow up. It's like we have a bunch of 20-year-old children that want to go to the bathroom in kitty litter boxes and act like they're cats, or pet a robot that has a cat face. And yet those same people would probably say pets are unsustainable, which is a video I have coming up sometime about, pets being unsustainable. Can you believe it? Many think robot waiters are the solution to the industry's labor shortages. Sales of them have been growing rapidly in the recent years, with tens of thousands now gliding through dining rooms worldwide. There's no doubt in my mind that this is where the world is going. Yes, said Dennis Reynolds. Of course it is, because our freaking government has planned it that way. It's a planned economy. A free market economy, we would not be going this fast. A free market economy, we would start dabbling. It's just, it drives me crazy. There is no doubt, okay. The school's restaurant began using a robot in December, and Reynolds says it has eased the workload for human staff and made service more efficient. But others say robot waiters aren't much more than a gimmick that have a long way to go before they can replace humans. Again, I would never want a robot to replace a human. I would rather if I'm going to go out to eat, I want a human being there. They can't take orders, but we need to actually... The service industry is frowned upon. I've noted, in my life, I've noticed, oh, you're a waiter, you're not a doctor, you're not a lawyer. I just think that's awful, because I am so appreciative somebody is actually making the food for me and serving it. That's a service. And what is money for? But for good products and services. Now we don't have. You could have millions of dollars, but you can't buy a Bentley 2024 because the backlog is 2-3 years. My cousin trying to buy a boat. It's been almost 3 years. He ordered the boat almost 3 years ago, still doesn't have it. So it doesn't matter if you have money if you don't have products and services. That's what money is for. I'm sorry, I'm going on a lot of tangents. All right, restaurants are pretty chaotic places, so it's very hard to insert automation in a way that is really productive, said Craig Lee Clare, a vice president with a consulting company, Forrester, who studies automation. Still, the robots are proliferating. Redwood City, California-based Bear Robotics introduced its Survey robot in 2021 and expects to have 10,000 deployed by the end of this year in 44 U.S. states and overseas. Shenzhen, China-based Purdue Robotics, which was founded in 2016, has deployed more than 56,000 robots worldwide. And that's another thing. Okay, so now you buy a robot, and again, there's a camera on it. Where is all that footage going? If it is a Chinese robot, could it be going directly to a database for Chinese people to go through? You know, the Chinese government, rather, or even our own government. Let's be real. I mean, it's just governments around the world. It's not China or Russia. Our own government is more of a threat than they are. Every restaurant chain is looking toward as much automation as possible, said Phil Zhang of robotics. Okay. So you get the idea for that one. I want to share this. This is from Automation Alley. Why companies need to stop postponing their Industry 4.0 transformation. The digital technologies of Industry 4.0 have given American manufacturing a golden opportunity to level the playing field and reshore much of the production that went to the areas of the world where low-cost labor was available. At Automation Alley, we believe manufacturers that embrace new software, additive manufacturing, distributed manufacturing, and other Industry 4.0 concepts will have a better chance at rising above the competition. Unfortunately, more than a decade after the term Industry 4.0 was born, far too many manufacturers are still reluctant to embrace digital transformations of manufacturing. The excuses are as easy as they are plentiful. We've all heard these excuses, and while it can be challenging to make the transition to Industry 4.0, companies that don't do anything are at risk of being left behind by their competitors. To keep up, companies must prioritize digital transformation, explore 3D printing, and be willing to embrace a software-driven business model. And I say this all the time, and I also subscription-based model. Brandon Sanderson, a fantasy novel writer, was just talking about the same thing is happening with audiobooks that happened with Spotify with music. So now authors, you're not getting paid anything. You're going to pay a subscription, and then you have access to all of these books, but you don't own any of the books. You don't own any of the video games on your Xbox, Microsoft Game Pass. You don't own anything. You have to pay in order to have access. That is what they want. Software transformation, additive manufacturing, okay. They are the three major emerging trends that are becoming critical to how manufacturers operate in the world of Industry 4.0. Software or digital transformation for Industry 4.0. At the heart of Industry 4.0 is transitioning to a software-first mindset, which means replacing standard or non-digital manufacturing processes and operations with digital solutions to enhance how a business operates. No matter the industry, this transition is one of the critical components to staying competitive. So do it or you're gone. That's basically what the central planners are saying. With a software-first business model, manufacturers have the opportunity to gain infinite flexibility to pivot during technological disruptions, such as artificial intelligence and shifting customer demands. For example, Air and Liquid Systems in Rochester, Michigan, is using a 3D printer to print a part that used to cost $100 and was made of stainless steel. Because the company implemented this software-first business model into its daily operations, cost to make the needed carbon fiber part is only $1. The integration of this new technology has created a culture change and given Air and Liquid Systems. So, you know what's really messed up is that this is going to actually make everything cheap in the world, and they knew that. That's why they don't want you to own anything, is because it's going to be so cheap to own it all that they don't want to share their resources for it. But like, it would be devaluation, deflation instead of inflation. Everything is going to be cheaper, and then you can own all kinds of stuff. But again, they don't want you to own. Why can they own 5 yachts? How about everybody just gets 1 yacht? But maybe if 8 billion people had a yacht, there would be nowhere to drive it, right? Is that what they think? Is that what you think? I don't know. I don't even want a yacht, so I'd be one of them that's out. Not everybody wants a damn yacht. Additive manufacturing for Industry 4.0. The ocean kind of scares me, I ain't gonna lie. There's freaking jellyfish in there, okay? And of course sharks, but there's squid. The things with 8 legs are scary. 3D printers can be used to make parts that range in size from tools for manufacturing processes all the way up to rockets that can be launched into space. Right. Rockets that can be launched into space. Additive manufacturing allows manufacturers to produce low volumes of products at a fraction of the cost it would take using a traditional manufacturing process. Again, why can't I have a washing machine that is made well and lasts me for my entire life? Let me buy one washing machine forever. And one that actually has enough water to wash my clothes. I don't have to do a double rinse or the deep water method in order to have enough water to wash my damn clothes and rinse them properly. How about that? 3D printers also provide manufacturers with far greater production flexibility because the printers can produce products in any shape, size, and form and can be easily changed by reprogramming the software. The coolest part of the Matrix was that you could plug something in the back of your head and you can learn Kung Fu, okay? That would be cool if you could actually do that and learn something in the split second. I always thought that was if you had one superpower, what would it be? It was always either teleportation or to be able to just touch a book and know everything that's in it, right? Knowledge. What would you have as your superpower if you had one superpower? Let me know. For example, the Automation Alley Project Diamond Initiative Zoltan says, yeah, I catch your vibe with space for sure. Thank you. I'm glad you do. Additive manufacturing and distributed manufacturing technologies to create an advantage for 300 Michigan-based small and medium-sized manufacturers provided with a 3D printer. This initiative demonstrated the value of distributed manufacturing by using the printers to supply 8,000 tourniquet parts to those in need of a medical assistance in the Russia assault on Ukraine. Gotta just throw that in there. The Russian assault on Ukraine. Takeaway advice for implementing Industry 4.0 technologies. Industry 4.0 technologies are not only digital tools that get added to the line as we know it. These technologies are fundamentally changing the production line every day. Yeah. Many industry leaders are aware of Industry 4.0 and the benefits of this digital transformation. They are no longer intimidated by technology and are becoming more comfortable experimenting with 3D printing, collaborative robotics, artificial intelligence, and other digital tools. Industry 4.0 is advancing at an exponential rate because all our taxpayer dollars are going towards it. If companies are to keep up, especially small and medium-sized manufacturers, they must analyze the 3 key, especially those because they're the only ones that aren't doing it. All of the big dogs are already doing it. You don't have to tell them. They've been doing it for the last 10 years. They're pushing it. They must analyze the 3 key trends, digital transformation, additive manufacturing, and distributed manufacturing, and begin to put them into practice. Doing so will enable flexibility, resiliency, and sustainability, guys. It's sustainable, while empowering companies and people to achieve success in the digital world. Yeah. So let's see. If we come down here, I think I showed most of these. Oh yeah, look at that. What is this? There will be all kinds. Wow. A drone-brella. Huh. That is unique. Wow. Instead of just holding the umbrella. Okay. Let's see. Of course, drones. I like to just scroll through. This is a problem, okay? I do not care for any social media except for Twitter, I'm not gonna lie, because of the capability here. Just typing in robotics and I get a variety of leads, basically. You know, if I want to look into something specific, this is where I get to look. Robot dog. See, once a week I go talk to a friend of mine who was in the Vietnam War, Vietnam vet, and we talk about the military, and he's always like, you know, everything that they're doing to the military, downsizing it, making it weak. You know, why would they do that? Because you got robo dogs, man. You got robot dogs. You have direct energy weapons. Like, technology has replaced human beings, and because human beings can think, they can disregard an unlawful order. They can say, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to attack my own people. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, we talked about it sitting at the smoke pit when I was in the military. What if the government told you have to go invade, you know, Iowa and capture this city because it's a bunch of homegrown terrorists? What would you do? You know, most people would not go after their own families. They wouldn't go after Americans. And so you have to get rid of the military, the human beings in the military, and go with something that will be programmed and just do whatever the programming says. Connie says, I took a creative writing course in 2016. All the younger students were writing dystopian stories, but I don't think their stories went far enough. Yes, and dystopian novels have always been some of my favorites for some reason. The Giver in particular, it was one of the first books I remember, actually a classic that I enjoyed reading in school, was The Giver, which is actually like a trilogy, I think, but I don't remember any of them but the first one. But yeah, I thought about writing short stories, and I was thinking out sci-fi, horror, because I agree with you that people aren't seeing how dangerous, the dangerous side, the military and the black budget, the things that they're doing with our money would terrify anybody. They know how dystopian novels work. But I think that the majority of people just don't want to believe that their own government would do such things and actually do, you know, create the Terminator Society. So this is the last one I have to share with you. World leaders debate whether it's okay to kill people with Terminator-style robots. We are moving into a field that we do not know, for which we do not have guidance, rules, frameworks, or agreements. It's the same thing with nanotechnology. I did a whole video on nanotech being an unregulated industry, and we have no idea what they're doing with teeny tiny robots. I mean, you saw the one that string-looking thing. It's a robot. Like, I can't even imagine what kind of teeny tiny robots. How about the Bill Gates and his little drone mosquitoes, right? Like, it's crazy. Write short stories about robotic horror novels. Maybe the only thing that wakes some up. Yeah, I want to write more. I've been talking about it. I started this YouTube video to try to get everything out faster, but really, I think each of us should write down like different headlines of what happened, what's happening. For all of 2024, you should write down things that are going on, because you think you'll remember, but you'll forget. And like some of the stuff that happened when in 2020 was like, I forgot that when my mother-in-law broke a bone in her leg, I could not go. It was either my husband or myself. We could not switch. Only one person had to be responsible for my mother-in-law. It was awful. That means if you know, he had to go to work, or if I needed to do something, I forgot about that until recently. Is my whole point, is you forget of all the things that you went through unless you write them down. And then you can go back and be like, wow, I forgot that on this date, the World War III actually started because we started giving money to Ukraine. That's when World War III really started. If you read War is a Racket, then you know. Once you start funding, the two people are in a fight. If your neighbors are in a fight, and you go and you give a stick to one of them, well, you're in the battle. As soon as whoever wins or loses, like if the person that you gave the stick to loses, the person on the other side is going to come beat your butt, right? You are involved if you give a stick to the fight. And that's what we did when we gave a bunch of money. So to me, that's when the war really started. And I went on a huge tangent. Let's get into this. It's been presumably a truly bizarre week at the Hague? Hugh? I don't know. We're backdrop by the ongoing circus of Microsoft's Bing AI publicly melting down into a monstrous, home-wrecking Pinocchio role-playing chaos machine. Military leaders from 50 countries gathered to discuss responsible use of artificial intelligence in the military. The timing, absolutely impeccable. The substance of the Dutch-hosted summit, though, worrying. According to Reuters, leaders have certainly gathered, and they've certainly said some things. They've also reportedly signed an agreement to abide by international legal obligations in a way that does not undermine international security, stability, and accountability, which sounds good on the surface, but that already modest agreement was reportedly non-binding, and human rights advocates warn that it lacked any specific language regarding weaponry like AI-guided drones, slaughter bots that could kill with no human intervention, or the risk that an AI could escalate a military conflict. In other words, while the whole point of the summit has been for leaders to establish some firm ground rules, any norms that may have been established lack any firm specifics, seemingly rendering them impossible to coherently implement. See, now this is either they don't understand what the summit was really for, or they're lying about it. The summit was not to actually come up with some rules. The summit was to get together and talk about how to dominate the world. And again, if you just look around, that's obvious. The same thing happened in 2019. I'm going to keep bringing this up because most people don't even know about it, and it drives me crazy. Wuhan, China, hosted in 2019, October, just a couple months before all the crap started. They hosted the military war games where it was like 187 or was it 193? Somewhere in there, countries got together. Do you think that was just to show off to each other? That was only half of it. The other half was so they could get together, smoke cigars, and talk about the plan. Okay? This is what they're doing. They're getting together and they're talking about the central plan. How are we going to move forward with this robotics crap in the military? We all, let's see. Even so, the U.S. cordially asks you to please abide by them. Thank you very much. We invite all states to join us in implementing international norms. U.S. Under Secretary of State for Arms Control, Bonnie Jenkins, put forth in a February 16th declaration. As it pertains to military development and use of AI and autonomous weapons. If I don't like drones because it makes it so much easier. It makes it almost like a video game. It's very dangerous. If you are flying a drone and bombing people, your mind and body is not really there, and so the repercussions aren't there the same way. It basically makes it too easy to kill your fellow human being. I do not agree, obviously, with drones, automation. I don't agree with war whatsoever. We want to emphasize, added Jenkins, that we are open to engagement with any country that is interested in joining us. We will forget when we are being MK Ultra'd, when all these non-ending events happening, with all these, yes. We don't know what's going to happen, but I would say that records online are not as trustworthy as records in person. So do with that what you will. You know, I'm thinking about buying a printer actually and just printing specific articles that I think are going to be damning for some publications in the future. You know, there was a lot of people that said a lot of things in the last 3 years and they deleted it, right? They deleted what they said, but the internet is forever for now. But if you actually printed those things off, hence why I buy physical copies of things, then it is forever as long as this house is not burned down. That's the biggest fear. Fire. In this area, there's nothing else, right? Michigan's pretty dang good as long as you have heat in the winter, because blizzards obviously could be deadly, but if you have a shelter and you have cheap energy, then winter and blizzards are nothing. Fire, if you actually had a good fire, a beefed up fire department, wouldn't be that worrying either, but we don't have that. Our government has taken away all the money for our fire departments. So fire is something to be worried about. Back countries can break and remake their own rule, but countries can make and remake their own rules. Actually, establishing strong, distinct international guardrails and expectations, as was seemingly the goal of this summit, may well be the best way of ensuring AI responsibility, especially considering how poorly understood these much-hyped systems really are. Researchers have also warned that an international AI arms race could pretty easily destroy civilization. So there's that. And the most optimistic reading the summit was a first step, albeit a baby one. We are moving into a field that we do not know, for which we do not have guidelines, rules, frameworks, or agreements, but we will need them sooner rather than later. On that note, for everyone's sake, let's hope next year's meeting has a bit or a lot more juice. If there's ever a time for pinky promise level agreements, deciding how to go about building war robots isn't it. Again, though, this has been going on for so long, like this is way behind. We have been creating robots for a long time. 2012 is when I saw the Eater robot. So how long before that was created was it thought up? You know what I'm saying? You know what? I'm actually going to do this. These are different machines that are, you know, music, but this is autonomous machine, right? So smart robots. Yeah, I can't get over this one, man. War robots have been a thing for a long time. I wonder if I type in war robot, what happens? Huh, Terminator, of course. Okay. Not getting good. That's not a good keyword search, I suppose. I wonder if they have anything about the, although I think the R is robot. See, I don't know if this is a real picture. See, is this photo real? But this is the idea that you get in your head if you think of an eater robot, if you think of something that can eat biomass. Dang it. There it is. It was made in 2016. I read it in 2012, so I think it was before then.
Yeah. Anyone?
Of course, it's DARPA. I should have said that.
What one scared me more than anyone that I've ever read? I read about this thing that DARPA was putting together. It's a robot called the Eater robot, EATR robot. It's a robot that fuels itself on biological matter. So it essentially could eat bodies. So you've got a murderous robot that eats people.
It's like
that's its fuel.
Worst kind of things that human beings could achieve. It's like people are sat around trying to come up with them.
Well, they're the, you know, they.
Well, see, that's the thing, though. If you have a plan, and your plan is, unfortunately, let's just hypothetical here. Your plan is to, you know, kill 7 billion people. What are you going to do with those bodies? You got to think of something. And what better way to clean up the bodies than with a robot that uses those bodies to energize, so you never have to think about it, like a Wall-E. It's like Wall-E, but like a really evil Wall-E.
For a lot of really crazy innovation in terms of like military stuff, you know, but Boston Dynamics, you know, they're the ones that make those crazy robots, and they work with DARPA, and those are the ones that make those robots that you can't kick over.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's what you need. One of those that eats people, and you send them to the battlefield.
Do you know what an eater robot is?
Okay, we saw that other one. You get the idea. Quilted Gardener, hello, checking in briefly. If you're still here, thank you for stopping in. We've been talking about automation and robots and Whitmer, and I think that this robotic stuff is fascinating. Industry 4.0, it's terrifying and fascinating, and it doesn't have to be terrifying. You know, it could be really cool having automation and stuff, having more time to pursue other things. But what are those other things, right? What do you want to do? If you had all the time in the world, what would you do with it? I think that is all I have, but Baron says, this is the 13th year heating exclusively with my indoor wood stove. I don't want to ever go back on relying on the gas company. You are highly intelligent. If I had the capability to do that here, I would. Luckily, my parents, my grandparents, well, actually, my mom and all her brothers and sisters, along with my grandpa, built the house that my parents are living in. And it's just a square with a fireplace in the middle, so the whole thing can be heated. Very simple, very small, but you will stay warm. And, with some wood, of course. You got to have woods next to you. But I highly recommend trying to be as self-sufficient as possible. I want to get chickens in the spring so bad. I should have gotten earlier this year. But I pushed my luck, and I'm hoping that we can still get them in the spring. But I heard that round 2 or 3 of chicken genocide has begun. Bird flu has been found in chickens in Ohio, I think. So millions of chickens, once again, are being culled. So look out for egg prices going up again. Look out for chicken going up again. Anybody that believes, I'm sorry, that you can get bird flu from a bird, that bird flu is even real. If the birds are sick, it's probably from all the injections you're giving them. All the hormones and poison and everything else. You never heard about bird flu 60, 70 years ago. They just make up this stuff to make you afraid, and you can't verify. That's the genius of germ theory. It's genius, an evil genius, because you can't verify. There's this tiny little germ inside this thing that could kill you or something. It's like, what can kill me? Starvation, for sure. I'd rather eat a sick chicken than to starve to death. And I'm getting on another rant, but please try to get backyard chickens and try to pay cash to some Amish if you have that capability. So that way, you're not leaving a paper trail. Hopefully your neighbors won't rat on you. That's always a fear, because I don't live in the middle of the woods. I have neighbors, and a lot of them don't want me to get chickens. So I do worry that they'll snitch on me and get my chickens killed. That's something, and it's a crazy world we live in. I just hope that my neighbors wouldn't do that to me. But the TV and fear can make people do insane things, as we have seen these last 3 years. So don't let fear ever overtake you. Fear is a mind killer. Love your neighbor, and try to stay away from robots that can eat you. Thank you guys for hanging out. It's been fun. I will see you tomorrow. I am hopefully going to be dropping the Biden rural plan video, which, one more thing, really, really quick. Got to show you this. I'm going to be talking about this, the Office of Commissioner, President Biden's plan to give administrative state effective control of all internet service and infrastructure in the U.S. Thank you to Michelle Wise. Check out Michelle Wise Photography for sending me this. This just came out November 6th. The FCC commissioner issued the statement, and I'm going to get into all of this because it has to do with Biden's rural plan, getting the internet to everybody. This is part of that Infrastructure Act. The FCC could have taken concrete steps that have extended high-speed internet services to more Americans. It could have. So they're using the rural, hey, nobody left behind in the rural areas. Don't you guys want internet? Don't you guys want to be part of the metaverse? Don't you want to be connected in? And the FCC is taking over. So I'll be talking about that when I do my video on the Biden rural playbook. That's what it's called. So thank you, Connie. Great show, Michelle. Rob Davis, exactly. Love your neighbor. Please love your neighbor as yourself. And that means love yourself. And that means you need to act in a manner worth loving, and you will love yourself. So just tell the truth. Be as good as you can. Hello, by the way, Rob Davis. Thank you so much for stopping in. And the Quilted Gardener, I'm traveling today and stop for lunch. I have to get back later. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me live. It's always fun. I'm going to do show more, probably Twitter videos and stuff like that in the future. So again, please share this with people if you think that they will actually watch, listen. You know, you guys sharing it is how my channel grows, because YouTube is definitely not sharing it. Thanks for being here, Michelle. I love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you.